Okay, we're gonna call to order the roll call. Yvonne Harper.
Anyone here?
State your name.
We're here.
Right there.
Tell them, Holley.
Ian Schellenberger.
Was the meeting properly noticed?
Yeah.
All right, approval of the agenda. I need to make a motion to amend the agenda to add 2 items. The first being Holley Water Systems presentation as item A, which will make each item thereafter.
Can we put it under committee report or under something else? Because in order for tonight's agenda letters to match up with Tuesday's agenda letters, if we start getting them out of sequence and confused, it could really confuse them.
Well, can we add them as J then, and then they just go first?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good.
All right. So let me restate that. I make a motion to amend the agenda to have Holley Water's presentation as item J, stipulating they will go first.
How about I?
And then as item K will be the discussion of having a company come and put Christmas lights at the 2 main entrances.
Second one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ron? Aye.
Well, I agree with you.
To the agenda?
Yeah.
Right,
We won't have tonight.
that's fine. Can everybody hear me? Because I'm speaking loud. Is that? All right, general manager report. Do you have anything other than what was stated on Tuesday, April?
Well, I don't think I put in here to officially notate, which we're sending an email blast out that the pool dome will be going up December 21st. We'll start preparations for that the Friday before on the 18th. So it should be up and ready pending no bad or unforeseen things by the 23rd.
Merry Christmas.
All right, officer reports. I have nothing to report. Kevin is secretary.
No.
Ron is vice president.
Just one quick thing. Talked to the engineers today. We'll be sending out the bid documents next week sometime. They don't see the need really for a pre-bid conference because their specifications are very narrow. And then they will have the bid on the 14th. They will open them. They will email me their summary and their recommendations by 5 o'clock. We have a meeting at 6. We won't make a decision then, but anyway, so we should have some information to be ready to go.
Right. It's awesome. I read the emails. I was excited about that. Deanne?
No, I think I've covered pretty much everything.
Yeah. All right, there's no unfinished business. New business with the e-voting. There was no action on that one.
You want to jump down to J before we start that?
Well, oh, yes, sorry. Come on up. Holley Waterworks.
That microphone is probably not going to work tonight, so just holler
I'll
out.
try to talk loud. Good evening. I'm Paul Gardner. I'm the general manager of Holley Water System. And I appreciate you letting us speak tonight. And we've come up with an idea, and I ran it by Yvonne and April. And I think it's something that's going to help us both out. And right now, this is the planning stage of it all. We still need to do the geotechnical stuff and everything. But tonight, we would just like to run it by the board, get your thoughts, and see if the board agrees that we can start our testing and commit to doing our testing and get everything moving with that. This is our engineer I brought, Phil Phillips. He's with MDSI engineering firm, and that stands for Municipal Engineering Services. And so I'm gonna let him answer all the technical stuff. And I guess Yvonne has told me that you guys have kind of talked this over Tuesday night a little bit.
Well, no, we didn't really discuss it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just forwarded them the questions that they had via the email.
Oh,
So if you
okay.
could just like do the overview of what the plan is.
All right.
and then-
Sure. What we're trying to do is two things. One, we're trying to build more capacity for reuse. And two, we're trying to find a way to alleviate the overflow out of those ponds across the street when it rains very heavily. So what we are proposing at this point in time is that we build a couple of large decorative golf course bunker looking things in the yard out here, the portion that's unused, which will let us load those things during the night. They're dry during the day, and if we get a heavy rainfall that causes anywhere close to intersection flooding, like it's happened a couple times over there, we can pump that water back over here to those things to eventually go away within the next couple of days. So that's kind of what we have in mind. Like Paul said, this is like very preliminary. We don't know capacity, we don't know if it'll even work. The first thing we would really need to do is do some geotechnical testing over here in the areas we plan to do it. And until we get that done, we really just don't have much of an idea of what we can get out of it. We suspect though, that the permeability up on the hill here is pretty good because we can't keep water in those ponds quite often across the street at our current limit. So we suspect that the ground is probably pretty good, but we don't know. We don't know. So with that, I'll open it up to questions, or if you want me to, the questions that you submitted to me, I can kind of run down these and kind of give you what our thoughts are on. Does that sound good?
That would be good.
All right. First set of questions, how will this affect our own stormwater project, which just went through the approval process in which we are just about to spend thousands of dollars on? It won't affect it at all. It should improve stormwater because we're going to take water into those bunkers, I call them that for lack of a better term, that would ordinarily go down the hill. You know, water that might come off the roadway out there, those will intercept it before it gets down there. So it should help, but it does not affect your permitting or your construction at all. Do we really want them to pump reclaimed water, i.e. treated sewage, that close to our swimming pools and recreation center? You actually are already permitted to spray it a lot closer to your swimming pool than we're going to get with these ponds. But if there is some concern about limitations of where the ponds can go, we're happy to entertain any comments there. What we showed there is just so preliminary that any of that could change. Shape could change, size could change. We're open at this point in time. We're not stuck with anything. Will they maintain it? Yes, we would have to maintain at least the bottom if it becomes a reuse system. So that part we would have to maintain. If we start talking about getting into some high-end landscaping or something like that, that might be a little iffy. We may want to have a conversation about that. But in general, yes, we'll maintain the bottom of this thing. What happens with the jogging trail, which we are just in the cusp of building, that is located in that area? We didn't have any clue you were going to do a jogging area. We can either avoid it, or it can wind amongst this, or we can build it into this. Again, whatever floats y'all's boat on that. If we have had trouble with water on the south side of 98, which we're now dealing with, what happens when thousands of gallons more may be pumped on a daily basis? I'll go back to my stormwater statement now. We're actually going to be taking water that would ordinarily go down the hill and keep it from going down the hill. So we should be cutting that water off. These ponds, the way they would have to be permitted, because they'll be dry ponds, there's no way we could ever fill them to the point of overflowing down the hill, unless we just pump so much water during a storm event from across the street. But you wouldn't do that. You would rather have it be over there than over here. How would this be paid for? Quite frankly, we pay for it. It's to our benefit. It's something we need. So I would envision, again, short of some really strange landscaping requirements, that I think Holley would bear the cost of this project. Who would maintain it after built? Already covered that. How would this impact for expansion in the future? I assume that's related possibly to a building expansion in that direction? I didn't know.
Either a building expansion or swimming pool expansion, or, just we're trying not to tie our hands too much.
Well, of course it could always go away, but you know, Holley Bar is gonna be looking for some time commitment, you know. I mean, we wouldn't wanna spend a couple $100,000 or more if it was gonna have to go away within 5-10 years. That's the only thing I can say there. Again, the size and location is up for comment. There is a, you know, what we're gonna do is we're gonna weigh what the capacity we could get out of them versus the cost to build them. And the more capacity we can get, the cheaper it is to build. Where that crossover is or how much money that is, I don't know. I don't know where that is yet. It's just so preliminary, we don't even know. Need to ensure they do not pump in water like they do at the golf course. They've been pushing a lot there to the potential detriment of plant life. Of course, this is dry ponds, not a wet pond. I'm not sure exactly what that comment's related to, but we do put 1 million gallons a day on 160 acres at the golf course, so. I think that was it. I think that was all the questions you sent us.
Again, this is something that's real preliminary. No, I think what we would like to do is just, if the board's interested enough to let us go ahead and do the geotech, the testing and stuff to see what we can permit, we would like to go ahead and start with that. You know, we're not asking you to make any commitments tonight or, you know, sign anything in stone tonight. We're just actually kind of testing the water to see what the board's feelings are and the members' feelings are about doing this and where we go from there.
How much more water are you talking about pushing on us?
Don't know.
Well, it depends on the geotesting and how much. We're not gonna push any more on it than the ground can take. That's why we need to do the geotesting so that the geologist will tell us this is what you can put here from a certain time at night to a certain time in the morning, and that water be gone during the day. And this thing, the way we want to design it, it'll be completely automated, where it can be controlled by, you know, a way like from an operator's cell phone or something. But it also can be controlled to a certain extent remotely by sensors in the pond across the street and stuff that keep that pond at a certain level. And the problem we have right now is we see a big rain event coming. The only option we have right now is to turn that valve off to that pond. Well, you can't do that fast enough to let that water perk out of there. So when the rain event comes, it takes all the storm water and keeps it off of Sunrise, the intersection there. What we're planning, if you know, we do this thing, we'll be able to trigger a pump that will pump that water over here into the ponds to soak up in a matter of hours to get ahead of a rain event. So, and that's the benefit we saw to Holley Navarre, to Holley by the Sea and its residents, you know, because that's a bad situation over there, and we try to keep it down. We try to keep what we call a lot of freeboard in there, have a lot of room left in there, but people like to see the aesthetics of it. They like to see the water up to the grass line and stuff, you know, and so we don't like to do that, but I mean, if you do that, you know, you're risking having that flood when it comes in.
What kind of assurances can you give us that would solve the problem at the entrance?
Well, until we do some engineering and like I said, until we do the actual engineering and stuff, we can't give you any assurances right now. Now, after the engineers do their study and their engineering and the geotechnical people do all their tests, Phil might be able to give you some kind of reasonable assurance of what we can do and, you know, what will happen.
How would it be pumped over to here?
It'd be pumped, we probably have to, well, I don't know, and that's part of going back to the design right now. I'm kind of just speculating because if I said it, it'd be pumped basically the same way it's pumped now. Now, whether we would use that pump or not, put a different pump there.
Well, I'm just thinking here, we're talking Cross Road.
Yeah.
So is it?
Well, there's already a pipe there.
It's already piped in.
Yeah, we got 6 inch under the road already.
When this was originally permitted down here, the plan was to come over here and keep water in this pond out here. But then when we decided to go with the sprinkler system, and Holley had a consent order and they had to do a payment in kind, you know, a project in kind, this is what we did to keep out of the consent order. We built the sprinkler system for Holley by the Sea, the rec center here. So we used the existing stuff that was in the ground, built the sprinkler system. So the infrastructure's in the ground already.
These type of ponds, do they require any type of protective fencing or anything to keep people or kids from wandering off down in there? And
No, not if they're dry, and if they did, that would kill the project, obviously, if we designed it in that way. I don't think y'all would be inclined to want that over here or a wet pond over here, so if some portion of the design required that, I think it kills the project.
Yeah.
Most of it depends on the slope.
Yeah.
because looking at the cross section, I mean, it looks like it's some fairly steep elevation mounds going to be built.
We would have to
contain the
design it to
sand.
whatever, it would be 3 to 1 or flatter, essentially. It'd probably be more like 5 to 1 or something like that, so.
So what are y'all looking for from the board tonight? Are you looking at just the approval to do the geo-testing so that we can get a better understanding?
That's where we would like to start, Mister. We don't want to ask, we're not asking for any commitments from the board tonight, and we're not expecting you guys to ask us for any commitments. Right now, we're gathering information, and we just need the
Permission to do
board
some.
to say, well, we're gonna entertain it, do your geo-testing, and if it works, then we'll talk.
What we do is, once that geotechnical testing is done, we'll know a lot more about what we can do. And then we can kind of improve upon that, 30-minute sketch that you see in front of you,
Mhm.
kind of show you what we need, what it would have to look like. And then you can decide where to go from there.
I don't think we should vote on that tonight. We need to discuss it independently.
Sure. We're just here tonight for,
I
information
appreciate you
purposes.
coming,
You're very welcome.
and we appreciate the insight, but we need to discuss it between the board and the
Yes,
members that are
I
here.
understand. That's what we expected. We're just here tonight to provide any information we can for you to make that decision.
But as far as drawings and concepts, this is actually about as far as you've gotten.
That is exactly how far we've
That's as
gotten.
far as we can go.
Yeah, that's as far as we can go without actually some kind of commitment from the board here to let us go on the property and actually do some testing.
Do any of the members, because we'll excuse them since they're not members, because we would need to discuss it amongst ourselves, so do any members have any questions?
Comments or questions?
Do you have any questions for them?
I believe they may want to comment on my question.
Okay.
This work?
That's not working.
It's not working. Okay, well, I can talk loud. Dr. Robert M. Peter Zane, AKA Pete Peter Zane, 2861 PGA. So the idea is to have the ability to pump from the ponds to the currently dry areas just to the west of this building, north of maintenance. And so that would either require one of two things, either a second pump to those ponds or putting in a valve in the existing line that you could divert to the pumps rather than to the sprinkler system.
I believe, and Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it to be done with minor adjustments and.
As long as you would have a way to divert the water to
Actually-
the ponds rather than the sprinkler system.
Actually, more specifically, to answer your question, Pete, we would do it with a pump over there, not with a bypass valve. 'Cause if we do it with a bypass
You do a
valve,
second pump.
or a third pump, I don't know how many
There's-
there are.
I think there's only one over there right now.
If we don't do it
Okay.
via pump, we can't help the flooding situation.
Okay, okay.
And that's something-
Either or a way, because I always thought that there was the original design was to take water that went into there, put it into these holding tanks as needed, and or then spray it on our back 40. Appreciate that. The second thing was you mentioned fencing. If fencing is required, we'd have to fence the existing ponds across the street, so I don't think
Yeah.
that's an issue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
No, it's slope related.
Huh?
It's slope related.
It is, it's slope, so you just gotta watch the slope. Well, I don't know, the slope across the street is pretty steep.
Well, it's gotta be what, 10 to 1 or something.
I don't
No,
know.
some
I don't
of
recall
it's, some of
that
it's
top of
steep
my
and
head.
some of it's flat.
Yeah, whichever, but yeah, I think fencing is unaesthetic.
I agree.
I mean, I mean.
That
kills it.
if-
We
if-
wouldn't ask.
If you've ever lived on a lake, the lake is not fenced. You live on the lake and you know it's there,
We
okay.
understand that a place like this has to keep up appearance and aesthetics, and so we would never do anything that suggested a fence around it.
Okay. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any
Thanks for
other
having
comments?
us.
No?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming, I appreciate it. Did
Appreciate
anyone,
it.
No problem.
did anyone, you had some extra printouts, did any?
Yeah, y'all can just pass these out if you want.
Oh, thank you.
Is that the
Throw
same
them away
printout?
If you don't need them.
Do I have what you had?
Oh, you need one?
I got one.
Oh, you got one? Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you, I appreciate
Thank
it.
you, have a good evening. Do we want to discuss this now or do this at the end or what do you want to do?
We might as well, since it's on the table now, just, yeah.
Okay,
So let me make a motion so we can discuss and then.
okay.
So I make a motion to allow Holley Navarre Water System to go forward with the geotechnical testing only. And then after that, they'll be able to bring it back to the board. And then I think a lot of the questions that we have will be answered, and if we don't like it, we can extend them. Or, you know, the things. All right, so
No
discussion.
Okay, yeah, I have some discussion on that. Now, I think the first thing you need to realize is that their interest is not in curing our flooding problem over here. Their interest is that they have way too much, whatever you call that. I'm pulling a blank for some reason. Reclaimed water, then they know what to do with it. And that's why they're running the sprinklers 24 hours a day over there. So that may be the helping this situation in the entrance may be a side effect. But I don't buy that that's their main interest in doing that. Now, the other thing to consider is, he said that wouldn't affect what we're doing right now. But that is not the case. The stormwater system that we have now designed gives us room for up to 90,000 square feet. I think it's 90. I don't know. 90, I believe, 1,000 square feet of expansion, possible expansion in the future. We can handle that much water. Okay.
Unpermeable surface, that 90,000.
Impermeable surface. Say we wanted to say the building was
So you're talking about
destroyed, for instance, and we had to rebuild the building. If we wanted to build it bigger, we need that capacity. Now what happens right here is, he said it wouldn't affect it, but what we do is lose this pond right here. This part of the southernmost pond that is part of that calculation. Because this northernmost pond couldn't count in the calculations because we pump water into it from the pool. If they're pumping water into it from across the street, we lose the capacity of this pond. So we're losing a big expensive chunk of real estate for possible expansion. All of that would have to go. And I just don't think it's a good deal for us. I think we'd be giving up a lot of potential for expansion in the future. I mean, I realize we're not going to be able to expand all that now, but you heard him stand right there and say, well, it would be really difficult to move it. You know, we'd want a time commitment or something. So I just think we need to look deeper into this. And I had a discussion with with Frank Fabry actually this afternoon about that. And, you know, and the other thing is, they couldn't give us any assurances that it would cure this problem over here, across the street. So, you know, again, I think their goal is just to get rid of some of that water they don't know what to do with. And I really don't want to give up this much of our real estate for that and lose the capacity. It's easy to move this pond now, but once you have a system in place that's pumping reclaimed water into it, it's going to be a whole lot more difficult.
From an environmental perspective.
And from a construction perspective,
environmental.
to move that whole thing. And I just don't, you look at what a big chunk of our real estate that is to give up. So that's kind of where I am on it. The geotech data, I mean, you're gonna let them get it. They're gonna go out there and take a few little cores and find that it'll hurt. Yeah.
The question on the golf course was a good one, and I know Kevin had asked a question once out on Facebook, what's all the water doing out there? And when I talked with Mr. Gardner a little bit earlier, and he made a comment to me that I think holds overall. He said, we didn't buy a golf course, we bought spray fields.
They did, exactly.
He said it was a steal for, we didn't buy a golf course, we bought spray fields.
Well, they were clear about that from the beginning. I mean, they've never hid that that's why they purchased the golf course.
Oh, yeah, I know. But this is related. This is the same kind of issue. They're not trying to solve.
No, but I think that's.
They're trying to get more capacity for
Absolutely,
themselves.
and they were upfront about that, but a benefit would be the ability to mitigate. Now, if we've got a huge flood that, you know, I mean, obviously we've got 24 hours of rain, it's probably not going to fix it, but it would mitigate the ponds overflowing. So it would be it would be a benefit, but obviously, no, that's not their main intent. That's not what their first intent is. That would just be a benefit of it.
I'm sure
And
the
I
English
just,
people would appreciate
I
it.
can't,
Yes, I'm sure that
I can't see giving up that great big chunk of very valuable real estate for
it's hard
for
to tell on
retention for
this.
them. Let them find someplace else.
And it's hard to tell just how much, because I know this looks big, but it's kind of hard to tell without going through having like marks, like where you can actually visualize it for me, like how much area it is.
I know, but it's not just that, Yvonne. It's this, we are reliant on this pond. We can't use this pond for our calculations because we pump into it. We utilize this. This is all part of the calculation now for our retention ability for stormwater, which allowed us to get the permit. Now, if we start pumping reclaimed water into that, we can no longer use it as far as our ability to handle stormwater. So we're losing that capacity. We're losing X amount of possible impermeable surface, whether it be another swimming pool, whether it be more tennis courts, whether it be a bigger parking lot or what. We'd be losing that and the ability to do that in the future. So that's really about all I have. Pete?
Yeah, are we using those two dry ponds over here for any retention now? I don't see any.
The southernmost one
The southernmost one, still north
is
of
part of
Macon.
our system, yeah.
Okay, the northernmost one,
Is
which is
included in our ability to handle storm.
the northernmost one, which is the deeper, bigger pond, then is not.
We can't count that
Why not?
because we pump water into it from swimming pool. So that crosses it off the list.
How much water are we pumping into it from the
Still, you
swimming
pump
pool?
water into it, you
Yeah.
can't use it. That's just the way the
3
regulations
inches,
are.
okay, whatever. Okay. I disagree with that this is Hollywood of our water system looking for increased capacity. they are currently working on a $9 to $12 million project to get rid of reclaimed water, to ribs, rapid infiltration basins up on Eglin property. Like I said, $9 to $12 million. That's why our rates are gonna go up 17% next year. So, no, I think they're just trying to mitigate sunrise entrance flooding. The two things are, when water goes in there, get it out, or get the county to flatten that intersection from 98 to Water Street. Whether we can use either or both of these ponds over here, that's geotech. But at the moment, I think you need to at least go forward and get more information.
That's fine. I disagree with you on that. I think they're trying to push their capacity.
Patricia voted 20. Oh, doesn't
It doesn't
work.
That doesn't work.
I didn't know that was reclaimed water from
Yep.
those ponds,
Mhm.
from the water system
Right.
or water company.
From the,
Them and eat them
from the
fish,
sewage.
No, that is feed the turtles. No, it says do not feed here, but, if they themselves are using the golf course to eliminate water through the sprinkler system, why can't we do the same thing here when it rains?
We
On
do.
our property?
We
We
do,
do.
that's the existing system,
We take water from those ponds
Well, it's raining.
to
and we-
spray,
and we spray.
yes,
We currently do that.
yes.
The
What's that helping?
the water system spent $250,000 to put in a South 40 sprinkler system from the ponds.
And it can't keep up, when you've got a heavy rains like we have, turning those sprinkler systems on can't keep up with the amount of water that's going in. So that's what causes the flooding, where something like this they would have the pumps that could pump out more water at a faster rate to lower the water in the ponds to help mitigate it.
Until it moves south.
But we have run our sprinkler system for 24 hours or more to
Oh, yeah.
lower the water level?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you.
I would like to move forward only because I would like more information, and I completely understand what you're saying, and I think it's valid. But for me right now, I don't feel comfortable saying yes or no, because, as you said, this is so preliminary. You know, it's hard
Let them
to,
do a geotech, that won't hurt
and then they
anything.
can present like a more comprehensive plan, I think, to us, and then we can.
Yeah.
I mean, that won't
get it
hurt
bet-
anything.
get
I
it
just-
fabricated. You know, make sure everybody's working on the same page as you.
Yeah, I just think we ought to take it with a grain of salt. And I think we need to look at the long view as far as the potential of expansion in the future and losing that ability. But I'm okay with letting them do the geotech. Not gonna hurt anything. That's just information we'll have that we might need someday.
All right, so all in favor of authorizing Holley and Navarre Water System to move forward with the geo-testing?
That's been seconded.
Is
Yes,
there a
second.
all in favor? Aye.
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 Any nays?
Any nays?
Do both.
You can do a yea and a nay.
Maybe, is there a
There
maybe?
may be an option.
All right, so back to item A, the e-voting. Skip did a really great job of doing the research on that.
That
So
motion was rescinded.
there is no
No
action.
action.
Right.
Are you cutting me off?
Yes, I am.
There's no action on that because we need to
Well, you're
get
in
the
a
database. All right.
What are we?
Becker and Polyakov, approval of retainer funds for 2016. The motion was to approve the retainer funds, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope. The insurance quotes, there's no action on that item. The structural engineer quotes for recreation center, I did ask if April could get with the ECM, I believe was the first company, to determine if they could, when I had spoken to her after the meeting, and Kevin had mentioned having the other two companies come up to ECM, what she pointed out, what I didn't consider, is we would then have to tell those two companies what ECM had done in providing that information, so it would have been, so it was easier to have ECM just come in with a straight conceptual design, so as not to divulge the information from the one company to the
Well,
other
they're not
two.
divulging their pricing or anything. All they're doing is saying what the work is. And the work is gonna be the same amount of work regardless of who does it. So it's not a proprietary
No.
situation.
What I'm saying is instead of me sending it to the other two companies saying this is what ECM proposed to us, matched apples to apples, I just emailed them and said, I wanna know just what it would cost for your preliminary, your drawings for us, because that's what the other
Site ready
companies gave us.
construction drawings.
Yeah, so can you pull that cost out of your original bid and send that to us to start?
And were they able to get that by today? No? Then I make a motion to postpone this until January. Any
Second.
further information, all in favor? Ron? Aye. Any opposed?
So you've changed the motion to postpone.
Yes. The Holley by the Sea Recreation Center programs, there is to be no action on the youth or the swimming team. The motion was to have Ms. Hamilton go to an 80-20 program and to rescind, to allow her to set her own fees. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Repealing the residential usage policy, there's, this was forwarded to continue the discussion, so, continue the discussion.
I would like to rescind the motion. Oh, I thought that was my motion.
No, it's,
To go to the lawyer.
let's see. Your motion was to send it to the attorney for guidance, was the last motion on this.
That was mine.
rescinded.
Then I'd like to, oh, we did rescind it?
No, Yvonne's motion was rescinded, and your motion is still active on the table.
I'd like to rescind that motion and have a discussion on it.
Okay. Skip, did you have any discussion on this one?
No, just to go back to that, to me, it's the catch-22. I liked your thoughts. Second, so the your thoughts. Restructuring. It's still very strong. It is a covenant issue. That has to be addressed in the covenant. And I think that's one of our agreements on.
Well, I think, I think we're in agreement on that. We need, the covenant need to be changed. However, there's nothing that actually says that we need to take any action on this whatsoever. This policy was put in place by a previous board.
But we're still
Oh,
responsible.
wait, I haven't finished. Now, if you look at this, say in the framework of the law, what the courts do when they look at a law is they look at the text of the law. They look at interpretations of that law, and they look at the intent of that law. And I can't believe, well, maybe I can believe, but I don't think the intent of those documents, when they were written, were intended to give renters more rights than owners. I don't think it was intended to take away people's usage rights that choose to, for instance, build a life together and not be married, or a same-sex couple, or a non-traditional family, whatever, or to exclude someone who has a live-in aging parent who perhaps needs to use that pool for rehabilitation purposes. And I don't think the intent of that was to do those things.
I think when I looked at the covenant, just my interpretation was that it looked to me, that they started out strong, the one section, and then they started to define a little bit more, So it was kind of like they started out tight, but we're loosening it, if you will, by talking about the family, and then a definition of showing us what the family was. And then, when, like I said, when I got into the bylaw part, just seeing how it gave some flex overall to the board, not just with that necessarily issue. You know, the idea of coming up with some policy and regulation. So that's the only, point I think I was really trying to make the other night was that there just seems to be an iterative kind of loosening process, as they were developing it. Now, I can't really say, what that was.
The structure that you're looking at it from superior document to inferior document as far as the order of progression.
Yeah.
So you are looking at documents that are more rigid at the first, and then at the second you have the bylaws, which if there is a conflict between the bylaws and the declaration is overruled because they are superior.
Right.
And then at the very bottom you've got our rules and regulations.
Right, but even when I looked in the section on when they're talking about the usage, there. Probably couldn't find it when I wanted to. When it talks in that section 4, the restriction on easement, multiple owners, such designation made in writing filed with association. Then we talked about the lease. Provided, however, that where the owners of the lot are members of the same immediate family, all members of the immediate family shall have the rights to ease of enjoyment. For the purposes of the section, designated owners shall include members of the owner's immediate family. And then it comes down and starts talking, this is what immediate family is. So all I'm saying is, when I'm reading that, I guess when I look at it, I say, oh, okay, joint account with my wife and I, we're the only two that could literally use this, However, now we're coming down and we're designating a little bit more, saying, okay, an immediate family, if we had children, they would be able to use them. Now we're coming down and we're saying, okay, children under the age of 25, and this is what immediate family, is. So all I'm saying is, when I'm looking at that, I just see the delineation breaking down, a little bit more, and it may be going to less, but to me that's still coming out of the structure end. And then when I get, like I say, eventually, to the bylaw piece, it's like, just in case something has to take place, you've got this ability.
If, for an example, you and your wife, you're both on the deed, you're both owners. How many votes do you have in the election? One. Well, why do you only have one vote? There's two of you, you're both owners. You don't have the same enjoyment of being able to vote? No, you don't, because it says that one of you will be designated basically as a primary. And then you have, from that, you getting that designation, all the other rights come from you, not from your wife, but from you. Now, your wife gets to use the facility because she is your wife, which is later on described in the family portion of it.
I would clarify it. In my case, it's the opposite.
So she's the one that votes.
I don't know, let me just point out that on number 6, it says approval to use the common area and rec center will automatically expire 1 year from the date approved by the board unless the resident applies or receives approval. So from my understanding of reading that, this policy expires 4/20/2016. So for example, the couple that purchased the home, because the gentleman who was here and his wife's father, they were renters, then the board passed this, and so then they purchased the home. So if I'm reading this correctly, their usage expires.
No, all they have to do is renew it. They would need to renew it. I mean, I don't see that means that this whole policy.
No, I'm just saying, I don't know that people realize that little caveat's in there.
Yeah, that's in there further. They still have to come back.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was one of my.
I think that's reasonable.
And that was one of my comments in, one of our back and forth was just that idea, is that if we're going to head down that road, then it would be also a matter of, I don't know if you could validate, but just come back every year.
And when you talk about the road, is this the road of not following all of the covenants as they're written and just picking and choosing which ones we want to enforce and which ones we don't want to enforce? You know,
No, that's the road of looking at the intent.
as a
Looking
board
at- but I
member,
think looking
you know,
at the intent too.
you know, I was, you know, up here to uphold the covenants that as they're written or as they're changed.
Would it be possible, given the recent court ruling, to send this to the attorney, because there, as you said, there's this hierarchy of governing documents, if you will, to see if, because the covenants are from 1972 and have not changed to reflect recent court rulings, that maybe that item can be stricken or rewritten without the amendment? Would the attorney be able to tell us that, given the recent ruling?
They would be able to. I had asked this specific question of Crew and Crew. And their response was, you know, do we need to rewrite the covenants to match the law? And they say the laws change every year, and the covenants don't have to constantly be kept updated to maintain what's current with the law. The law is superior to the document, and therefore it's what's enforced over what the contradiction is in the covenants.
Well, in that instance, then we could create a policy that redefines family, if you will, as stipulated by the recent Supreme Court ruling.
The only thing the Supreme Court ruling does is, you know, instead of Adam and Eve, you know, it could be Adam and Steve. It
But,
defines
yeah.
what the married couple portion of it is.
Yes, but I mean,
But the
even
rest
if
of
we
the
just
e-
change that, I mean, that's still bringing it.
But the rest of it is still, you know, minor children under 25 are still allowed, but if you don't fall into that, you're not allowed. Aunt Susie's not gonna be allowed into that.
Unless you're a renter,
So there were,
And there are a proper number of bedrooms.
and there's a problem with it.
so there was a question with guest passes. Is there a way to increase the number of guest passes to cover, say, a person's ailing father without violating the covenants?
I don't think that's necessary.
We're allowed to create a policy on, you know, as far as guest passes, but it's a slippery slope, because we've got 4,711 people that have 30 guest passes each. So, if we only give guest passes to a certain few that meet a certain criteria, then we are giving special treatment to a small minority and not giving it to the larger.
Well,
That's the only issue that I have
You
with
could do
that.
it across the board, because I
We
mean,
could
if
give
someone.
everybody 500 guest
Well, you could,
passes.
and
Just
so
a
for
couple
me, I mean,
facilities.
I would never use those 500, because there's a good segment of the homeowners who don't ever come up here and probably never use their guest passes. So, I don't know.
Could it be established as a separate guest pass program?
Well, we've already deviated from that with the
Beach house.
beach house down there, by issuing special guest passes for people who are renting the facility. So, I don't know, that's one of those questions that should get addressed by the attorney if we were gonna go that route. Whether or not, how far can it be pushed before it crosses over into just being a direct end around of the covenants.
Did you have something?
I just think from our operations here, you know, the reason why it came up is you guys had a couple of emails from some members who had affected, and then we've had people who come in. And for me, it was just to look at it because we have people who own lots, and, you know, just the husband can use it, but he's got his granddaughter and his daughter who live with him who may fall under the other, but it doesn't apply here. And of course, these people are the same as everyone else, I paid my assessments on time, I paid my dues. I don't even get the 4-bedroom rule or the whatever. I'm the only one who can use it. So it's hard for me, how do we in this office function to be fair to paying members for the usage? That was my only concern, on how do we operate here, because it affects us here directly.
Because under this policy, a homeowner
Well, an example, I have a
can
lady.
have, like, the husband, say that the wife is, or the mother, the female counterpart's not in the picture, it's just the husband, or the man. And he has his mother-in-law or his mother, his granddaughter, whatever. If they live in Holley by the Sea, they can use it for this policy. If they live outside of Holley by the Sea but own a lot, they can't.
Right. But they pay the same
But
rent.
they pay, that's the disparity in this.
Pete.
Again, this has been a pet peeve of mine for approaching 10 years now. Not because it affects me, but because I became aware of it when a couple of friends of mine who were both widowed sisters owned in Holley by the Sea jointly, and only one of them could use the rec center under the ownership rules. If they had rented a house, they both could use it. Now, it didn't bother them because they didn't use it at all, but that it got me going on this. And my thing is, you pay your $425, vacant lot, renter or owner, the usage of the common facilities needs to be standard. Whatever you decide. I would be happy to, I don't think I forwarded to this board, I forwarded it to previous boards, my historical evaluation of this. You said it goes back to 72. No, it's been amended 2 or 3 times since 72. Back in 72 was, if you were on the deed, you and your entire immediate family could use a rec center. So people were buying vacant lots, putting 17 people on the deed, and all of their immediate families could use it. So because of abuse, things have been cut down since. But whatever the policy is, it needs to be the same for vacant lots, owners, and renters. I believe under the bylaws that the board, in the interim before we could change the bylaws, which may or may not happen, could have, they're allowed to regulate guests. And you can have, in my opinion, and I've talked to a lawyer or two, can have a policy that treats transient guests or non-resident guests differently from guests that demonstrate they live full-time in the house. The current policy has some provisions along that line. We need to look at something that allows vacant lots, owners and renters, regardless of their marriage, non-marriage, whatever, to have the same equivalent usage. If it's very tight, it's very tight, but it's very tight for all 3 categories. If it's looser for all 3 categories, but it needs to be the same because they all pay $425.
For me, I would like us just to get out of the business of defining families and just simply put a number. You know, for example, 7 per lot/home. And so if there's a home, you know, and you've got 10 people, then they decide. So something like that, it just sets, since you're saying, a standard, and where the association is removed, is taken out of
Ideally, the covenants need to be changed,
Yes.
but that's a separate issue.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Hello. Good to see you. I have found out a little bit more about this since Tuesday night because I was really concerned that this was just going to be yanked, and I felt it was so patently unfair. And as I said, I have no dog in the hunt. I'm like Pete. Where'd he go? Anyway, I'm like Pete in that all I'm looking at it is from a fairness standpoint. And the thought that I have is one of the things that everybody on that board said is we want to do what's best for the people that live here. And what's best for the people that live here, in my opinion, is if they own the place, they ought to be able to use the facilities. So, what I found out was that the covenants say that we're talking about owners in the covenants. In this new policy, we're talking about residents. And there's a difference, so that if you're saying we can't countermand covenant. Why can't this be looked at as an adjunct to the covenant? Where if the covenant says this is the rule for owners, then we could have, now this is not gonna cover what Pete said about the people that own lots, but it would take care of anyone who's, the policy we have now is work for a year, in that these are residents that we're talking about, not owners. Does that make sense? I mean, I think that might, just terminology could maybe get you out of this deal that we're going against the covenants, if that's what
Well, I mean,
you're saying.
and I agree that you can use terminology to really do anything, but the fact is this policy expands the use of the facility beyond what the covenants stipulate. So how we word it doesn't change what it is and what it's doing, and that was the purpose of this, is to address the elderly parents, the disabled children who reside at home over the age of 24.
So it's an add-on.
So they're expanding. They created usage for people that are clearly not permitted per the covenants to use it. And in practice, I do agree that if someone lives within that home, and that homeowner pays the assessment, then they should be able to have usage of the facility. So let me state that clearly. I'm not against someone's elderly father using the facility.
I understand that.
But I don't want us to use words to change what something is. So we,
Well, I'm
as
just
a
saying to
board,
make
either
it legal.
keep this or we don't, we do have to decide what to do
If
with
you're
it.
saying it's a legal issue, I'm just saying that we can use words to keep it legal. But I met a woman this morning in my exercise class, her name's Edna Johnson. She just moved here, okay? I think she's a little older than I am, but that's probably neither here nor there. But she has a disabled daughter. And when she heard what I said this morning about what went on Tuesday night, she said, "You mean you just bought this house and there's a chance my daughter can't use these facilities?" And I said,
Read the covenant.
"That's what this is all about." And she said, "If I had known this, I absolutely would not have bought this house."
And I understand that, and this is definitely a personal issue for people who this affects. But when we buy into an association, there are covenants that we have to sign, that we agree to abide by. I don't think that this part of the covenants is right. It's not. I think it needs to be changed. And I have stated that before I was on the board. I always stated that if you want to change the covenants, start enforcing them to the letter, and I guarantee you, there'll be people lining up outside the door to change them because the covenants are outdated. There are terms that are so vague, they could mean anything, which results in, one board doing one thing, another board doing something else. So I don't like that part of the covenants at all. At all. I don't think the
No, I
association should
understand
be
that, but I just think the objective here, we're a homeowners association. We're not a government agency or a whatever, and if we want to make these rules so that, I agree, change the covenants, work toward changing the covenants, but in the meantime, use some common sense, which says, in a homeowner situation, make it so the people that live in the home can use the facility. I think it's that simple. It really is that simple. I don't know. I don't want to belabor this anymore, but I just feel like if you eliminate this and knock this out completely, that it's just a travesty. I really, really feel that strongly about it. Thank you very much.
I just wanted a couple things I was sitting there thinking about, the different possibilities of how we solve this and how you deal with this issue, because it's a very challenging issue. I've struggled with, let's assign an arbitrary number, 7 per lot, 5 per lot. The problem there becomes, I can say, I got 3 buddies that wanna pay me $100 a month and they can come use the facility. How do you control that? So it's, you know, what's the purpose of this facility? It's for the residents' enjoyment. I know there are a lot of owners that buy in here and that probably drives some of the lot value. Maybe there's a consideration, you know, you just buy a lot here just so you can come use the facility. You get more usage, it wears out the facility more, we have to pay more money. Yeah, I have concerns about the number. I often have thought just do 2 per bedroom, but then that punishes people with smaller or bigger houses. Or if there's no lot, then how, you know, no house, how do you deal with it? You know, I think that what boards have done in the past seems to be the most reasonable thing. Instead of a policy, you have the boards make an ad hoc decision with a variance based upon the needs of the family. And so you're using that's why there's a board of directors, to be able to make common sense decisions. So if I come up here and say, I want my 3 buddies to come, no, you can't do that. But if I want to say my mother-in-law is now disabled and she has to live with us, and so she wants to use the facility for rehab, there's just 3 of us using it. We're not hurting the facility as much as somebody that's got 7 people. So it's like a balance between those things. Of if you assign an arbitrary number that treats everyone fairly, then you put more wear and tear on the facility possibly. If you treat it on an ad hoc basis where even if they're a lot owner and they live in Lighthouse Point but their mother or daughter lives with them and it's just 2 people, the board can go, well, you only have 2 people using it, that's a no-brainer, go ahead. No, you want 7 people to use it? Well, are they all your children? Yes. Okay, fine. If not, no, we need to consider that. That's the whole point of having a board, is for you to make reasonable decisions instead of a hard and fast policy. You take the guidelines that were given to you by the original stuff, realizing they're flawed, and you make decisions and adjustments based upon what's the right thing to do. You know, there's a book I read sometimes, and it has a statement that says, never let your sense of morals keep you from doing what's right. And there's a difference between following the intent versus the letter of the law. And oftentimes a poorly written law will destroy people's lives when the intent was to make them better.
To your point, I don't think this board would act in such a way, because I think this board would have a standard that they apply consistently for variances. But I have been on that side and have seen the boards, 2 hardship cases back to back, identical. One was approved, one was not. And so that's the thing. It's not, I feel confident that this board would not do that.
Right.
But what would the next board do? So then again, it goes back to what is a reasonable standard? What is a hardship? You know, and those terms mean different things to different people. So we're right back to where we started, where, you know, one person gets it, and then the next person, I mean, seriously, the very next person who comes up is denied. And it's the same situation. I mean, different homes, different families,
Right.
but the same circumstances. And that's what concerns me with these type of things is, you know, each board, you know, ebbs and flows, and then
I mean, I want the covenants changed because I think they're
idea.
foolish, but the reality is I'm on the side of I don't know that that's going to happen. The disengagement of our community is such that I'm concerned about it.
Yeah.
And so we have to deal with the people. I don't want to hurt people's lives. That's all
Oh, I
I'm
don't
saying.
either.
You know,
Absolutely.
it's
I
a
don't
balance
want anybody
between
on the
damaging the
board.
facility, hurting people's lives, being fair. What's fair? It's hard to say. I
don't think
appreciate it.
anybody on this board wants to hurt anyone.
No, I don't think that. I'm not implying that.
Do you?
Just
He's a member, you can see.
Second bite at the issue, it was stated that, you know, give a variance. Prior to 2013, we were giving variances, which the board at that time thought once a variance was given, it was given. Well, the board elected the summer of 2013, and that fall chose to rescind variances. Whether it's legal or not, I don't know, it wasn't challenged. But your statement is, yes, the board can do the right thing, but unless we've got something above that level, the next board can come along and change it. Side question, would this board like me to forward them my previous position paper, which is not so important, but the footnotes, which are the changes that have the covenants do not go back consistently to 72. There were 2 or 3 changes in usage policy, which I don't believe were, I think they were knee-jerk reactions to crises, as so often happens, rather than consistently thought out the long-term equitability.
May I make a motion?
There's a motion on the floor currently, if I remember.
You rescinded, please.
He completely rescinded. Yes, it was rescinded for discussion only, so you'd like to make an amended, make a motion? All right.
I'd like to amend the motion to postpone this item pending legal review on if there's a way to amend the covenants to bring it up to date without going through the amendment process.
Well, a way to establish a policy.
No. The answer to that is already no.
Well,
Can you
let
make
me
a
rephrase
policy
it.
under the
Is there
bylaws?
a way to establish a
Uniform.
policy?
Right, yeah.
So is this a motion, or are we tabling it until we get some additional information?
Well, I would like to postpone it until we have that information.
Because the original motion that Rod had was that
Send it to
we,
me.
That's been
legal.
rescinded,
Yes.
Withdrew that.
So I'm essentially restating his motion while tabling any action on this policy pending further legal review.
Question on that though. The issue that the desk ran into still remain in effect. That it says resident. Are we allowing the desk to interpret that, or let us interpret that to mean owner being locked, owner?
Well, I mean, all of our policies are owner policies. They're not resident policies, they're owner covenants.
Okay, but I'm going at,
This policy says resident usage, so.
Yeah, the
And
policy
that's
says-
where this all came about, was lot owners were being told they couldn't use it because they didn't have a house on their lot.
I think that was just a confusion of the interpretation.
That's a
So we're
misinterpretation.
just
Okay,
making
but so
sure
where- yeah, but I
that
just want-
the front desk knows that it is okay to let a lot owner use.
Yes.
yeah, you gotta clarify that.
Well, the lot owner can use it, but the lot owner's granddaughter can't. Like if the granddaughter lives with him, the granddaughter can't, but under this policy, if they lived in Holley by the Sea, then the granddaughter could.
Right.
So this policy creates this, 2 tiers.
Right.
Or 2 classifications of users.
For now, until we get that interpretation. Yeah, but I'm just doing it because I think April needed that kind of clarification from the board.
So what is the motion?
Motion was to postpone any action on the policy pending legal review.
Is that second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I appreciate everybody's comments on that, thank you very much. All right, the next item. Pardon? The covenant committee threshold and letter to members, the motion was to approve the threshold and the letter to members only, with the proxy coming before the board in the January meeting. All approved, or all in favor? Aye. Okay, the next item was the approving Patricia Hoog as the chair. That
That's
was
our, that
done.
was voted on.
Item I, appointing these members was complete, which brings us to the Christmas lights. Okay, so I think the board saw an email from a member who expressed dismay that there are no Christmas lights at the entrances. So I replied to her and CC'd the board and the general manager that, we only have what we have essentially. And that for some, if we went out and purchased lights, that might seem frivolous, because we've heard that often in the last couple of months. So you're spending money on this, we just raised our assessment. she replied with a string of Facebook posts, is anecdotal. But I did, and this was just this afternoon, about 45 minutes before coming to the center. I reached out to a couple of light installers, Christmas lights installers, just to see what it would cost, not to make a decision. And talking with Rhonda and then Deanne, it was recommended just to bring it before the board to approve hiring someone to install the lights at the Sunrise and Coral entrance. The person I spoke to today, he was going to come out tomorrow and give a quote. What his company does is, this is just a number, just an example. Let's say he charges us $750 to do both entrances. That price is good for 3 years. They install them, they take them down. If the lights break, they replace them. It's a service. So
Are they their lights or?
they are their lights. No, it's their lights. So if the light breaks or the light will go out, then they're responsible for coming out. And that price, whatever the price is, unless we add, 1,000 lights, then of course there would be a higher cost. So that was the thought behind that.
And the board I'm on in Illinois, that's what we do. If someone come out, we've got 2 entrances that we take care of. And
My 2 questions are, one, we've had lights there before. I assume they were Holley by the Sea owned. Where are they?
Yeah.
And B, they were put up by maintenance. Why can't maintenance put them up?
Well, maintenance is pretty busy right now doing other things, and from my understanding, some of the lights that were brought out needed to be replaced.
I'll be honest with you, we have a bunch of things that haven't been replaced in a million years. You could probably pull a couple of them limbs off that tree and see that they're almost rusted out. If you touched it, it might fall apart. So we tried to go through and re-plug in lights and do an inventory. And Miss Chris actually helped at the front desk go through this stuff, and a lot of it was bad.
I agreed, but again, we have more control on in-house staff and supplies. If you contract something out, we've done this before, you can only do what the contract says.
No, it's a service.
Well, whichever. I think it should be done in-house.
I say, for example, there's how many palm trees in the, I don't know, how many are palm trees? Every palm tree is decorated, and you have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays sign. That belongs to them. The company that I was able to speak with, because I left a message with the other one, those are their lights. If they break, they come and fix them. If they get stolen, they replace, whatever it is, and then they take them down. And then whatever the price is good for 3 years. So it's not your typical type contract.
Well, she did ask me to ask maintenance, and I did ask maintenance, and it's on their schedule if this falls through. So it wasn't that that maintenance wasn't an option, but there were a couple of things with our workers' comp and liability for how tall some of these palm trees are. So there are a couple of different factors. We would have to go buy the lights, which of course is going to be fairly inexpensive.
Well, lights are not cheap, and you decorate every single one of those palm trees out there. That you're going to spend.
how about volunteers?
We didn't do that in the past. We just put some lights on the signs.
Oh, well, that's not what
You
they
know,
made it sound like.
I don't recall all the palm trees being decorated at the top. Maybe I'm wrong. But we did have lights on the Sunrise entrance sign, the Recreation Center entrance sign, and I don't recall Coral Street one way or the other.
I don't recall either, so I no doubt there were lights. It's just not something.
I just think it's something for the members, and if we have members that are asking for it, and there's been a great deal of members that are asking for it, we should give it to them. This is about them, this is their homeowners association, so I don't see why we keep looking at the past for everything we do, and I do understand what you're saying. But at this point, we need to start doing stuff to make the members happier than what we had in the past.
Grand Point decorates their entrances.
Does ours gonna look like theirs?
And Lighthouse Point has someone do theirs. So I know that it just depends on what association we're looking at, on who does what. But I do think for our members, we need to go ahead and give them a little bit of cheer at the holiday. And if it means hiring a company for now, because our maintenance is busy or whatever the reason, I'm all for giving the members a little bit.
And a bonus would be, he said they might be able to start tomorrow afternoon, no later than Monday, so they would be up within a few days. You know, so, and again, it's not something, we don't have to sign a long-term contract, we're not signing any contract to commit ourselves to the next 5 years. It could just be that it's done this year, and then next year we get new
Play harder.
lights
And what's the price of it?
Yeah.
We don't know yet.
We don't know.
yeah, we don't know yet, but I just needed a no more than, you know, what is reasonable, what's something that we can afford. So my motion is to go with the Christmas lights installer for the Edgewood,
A holiday light.
Holiday lights.
holiday lightings installer for Coral and Sunrise for no more than $1,000.
All agree as long as you include Edgewood. Do we have power at Edgewood, Pete, do you know?
I have no idea.
If
I
there's
don't know if
power.
there's light there.
I don't think there
I'm gonna go plant a tree there for you. Stick us.
There's a sign there, and it's a formal entrance, it's just as formal as it is
Yeah, I never noticed this sign.
at
Maybe we
Coral
can get one
Street,
of
except
those
there's no
pretty
lift
snowflake lights
station
that
in the
just
middle.
glimmers off the sign. Would that be okay? Just a
Do what?
glimmering snowflake thing, light that glimmers off the sign.
Well, it's
all
not
in-
one of those snow globes, it's all styrofoam.
Don't use lasers, cause the FAA will get at you.
All in favor?
Are we including Edgewood?
What if it's $200 more?
Okay.
The motion was for no more than 1,000.
If Edgewood can be included within that, fine.
So let's say Edgewood costs, let's say it's $1,100 for all 3 entrances.
Then make it 12.
How many desks can we buy for $1,000 or $1,200?
I mean, what?
How many desks? You know, we've got desks around here falling apart. We've got a
let's just-
sound system over here falling
let's just keep
apart.
it at $1,000.
$1,000 would go a long way to helping those items.
Let's just,
Yeah.
we'll just keep it at 1,000, so all in favor?
Is Edgewood.
If I can get Edgewood included in no more than
All right,
1,000.
all right.
Leave a string or two off the other entrances and put them on Edgewood. If there's
If
power.
nothing else, I'll decorate it for you.
If there's power there.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
opposed?
That's the other part.
The Grinch.
That was a nod to opposition.
I-
I think we've got more things we need to be spending money on other than feel good.
I think we need to make sure the members are happy.
I think staff ought to be happy.
You good.
I think they're getting happy.
That passed it.
Yes, all right, member open forum.
Hey, you know
Just
me,
thought
I
when you
like
thought you
to
could go.
Wait, where's the hourglass?
Yeah.
Well, but for subject, one, I already talked to April about this, but I was disappointed that I reached out to try to find agenda for Tuesday night meeting, Facebook, website. Obviously, a regular meeting doesn't require an email blast. It didn't make the website. Please, please, please try to get the agendas up, at least on the website, if not on Facebook.
Facebook.
And I'm proud to say during my 2 years on the board, I believe the agendas were 98% of the time posted the close of business Friday before the board meeting on Tuesday. I think that's a good goal.
This one, we do post ours on Friday.
Well, it wasn't on the website anywhere.
You said post it.
Yeah, everybody posted, yeah, that's
Yes.
fine.
So you stated
We,
that your board
on our
posted.
board, it was on the website by close of business Friday for 2 years. And I know we've come up with some additional expenses due to actions of the previous board. And I just want to, I'm not advocating this, but has the board discussed with council, is there any reasonable level of seeking liability to the previous board for not doing it? I don't, personally, probably not worth the effort, but at least explore with council whether there's any financial liability for lack of due process from.
So you want us to find out if we can sue the former board members?
Right, yeah,
I mean, is that what you're saying?
That's basically what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I.
Do you really think that's a good idea?
Probably not.
Okay.
But at least have you, yeah,
No,
if you
no.
haven't talked to council.
No, I haven't. You know, I think the previous board made some mistakes. You know, they
I
did
don't,
one or two
I
things
don't
well,
think
but
it, personally, I don't
no.
think it rose to a level that we had,
No.
you know, a 90% chance of
But
prevailing.
no, we haven't discussed that.
Okay,
with-
good
with-
enough.
And I don't think that we should.
Okay, the next one that I had was the most recent newsletter posted a couple of nice things. I think it was from Architectural Committee. One about you can recycle by mail, but no additional information about where you can recycle by mail. I think if you're gonna bring up the fact that you can recycle batteries and lights and stuff by mail, that there ought to be contact information. And at even a higher thing was, there was a
Wait,
thing
wait,
about.
wait, wait, wait. I have no idea what you're talking about as far as recycling by mail.
Look at the last Holley by the Sea news. There was an input, I believe, from the architectural committee that said, you know, we encourage recycling, yada, yada, yada. And that you can recycle CFLs and batteries and et cetera, by mail.
By mailing them.
If it'll make you feel better, we'll take Pete and we'll kick him out of the chairmanship of that committee.
There you go.
He's no longer the chairman.
But whichever, but it would be, actually, but if you're gonna say that it's available to recycle by mail, it would be nice to know some information about where and how.
Waste management.
That's not by mail.
How about Google?
I think it is. They have it in front of them.
Do they? Okay, well, need more information.
Yeah, you can't just mail a CFL and.
I have no idea. I wait for the twice a year thing down at the South Annex to get rid of my CFLs and batteries and stuff like that, but whatever. And then the other thing was they talked about, in the newsletter, about burning yard waste. And again, incomplete information. I know that on the website there are a couple of county documents that have been posted. I suggest these 3 county documents be posted on the website. You can share them with the rest of the board. Because part of the county allowance for yard waste burning is that it's, 25 feet from your house. But the big thing is, it's 150 feet from another occupied building. Which means that if you got a neighbor in any of your adjacent lots, you're not more than 150 feet away, which basically precludes outdoor burning in most Holley by the Sea lots. So I would encourage that information be made available.
Well, we need to distinguish between burning and like a fire pit.
No, this is a burning mound, not a fire pit. But I would certainly.
So to review, we need to make sure that the agenda is on the website, and more information on where people can recycle by mail, and no, you're not suing the previous board.
Whatever, I got more.
Oh, you have more?
I got more. I'm hoping, I attended the last local mitigation strategy meeting as an unofficial, just a community representative. Earl Dean was there also. There was no official Holley by the Sea representation, even though we have an official.
I believe Beth Walters had gone.
Well, she wasn't there at the last one.
Well, I don't know when the last one was, because the last one that I was aware of, she went.
Well, no, the last one was in November. I was there, Earl Dean was there.
I didn't receive, I did get, from Sheila Fitzgerald yesterday,
That there's
an
one
email
this-
about the 17th.
Okay, good enough.
Any emails about
I would hope we're represented there because having attended, the Board of County Commissioners meeting, the study is been received by the county, and actually at the Monday meeting, there was a placeholder placed based on that study, which has not been reported. It'll be reported to the county commissioners in January, that the low-hanging fruit is to put in $1.2 million for one of the first phases of stuff recommended for Holley by the Sea. So I'm out of town, but I would hope there's official representation.
I had planned on going to that meeting.
Okay. The next one would be a pet peeve of mine, but next Tuesday, Holley Navarre Water System is having their regular monthly meeting. One of their agenda items is how they manage their proxies. Does anybody need an explanation that if you don't go to Holley Navarre Water System and cast a vote like a polling place and you sign the proxy, you are giving away your vote to one of the people on the proxy, and they can vote it however they want, whether you like who they vote for or not. And I'm pushing with them that they go to a directed proxy like we do, and I'm a member of a couple of mutual insurance companies that do it this way, where the proxy directly says, I want to vote for this, and this person for the board. I'm just not giving a general proxy to one of them, and they can vote it however they want. My understanding is the last election, somewhat south of 200 people, actually, that's what they're claiming. Less than 200 people came in and actually voted in person. I had previous information that was like 89 people voted in person. All the other votes were signed over to somebody else. Well, they're gonna have a discussion of this next Tuesday night. Their pre-meeting is at 6. Their board meeting is at 7. And I would like to, if the board so feels, it would be helpful to have an official representative of Holley by the Sea.
I plan to be there.
Who might get up and say, I speak for 3,500 Holley Navarre Water System ratepayers and a potential 4,700 eventually when the lots are built out, and based on our previous problem issues in Holley by the Sea, that speaking for Holley by the Sea, which is about 1/4 of all of the ratepayers, our 3,500 people are about 1/4 of 1,400, that we would encourage them to go to directed proxies in the future, where the proxy that ratepayers send in, we can pick which candidates we vote for with Holley Navarre Water System, rather than just signing our voting rights over to a board member. Having attended a previous meeting, one board member was given 200 proxies, and we have no idea how they voted. A couple of other board members were given 98, or give or take, proxies, but out of the more or less 1,100 votes they received.
Yeah, I don't know where it ended up. I went to a meeting 2 times ago.
Right.
And that
Yes.
was an issue.
Yeah.
And they were, I won't get personal, but
Yeah,
they were.
Yes, record. It's a good old boy system.
So Skip will be there. I have a prior commitment.
Yeah, that's fine.
But
I would like the board to let him officially represent Holley by the Sea and 3,500 ratepayers,
No problem.
and say, and encourage our position to be that we want directed proxies.
one person, one vote.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, if you're a ratepayer, well, one person, 4 votes, because there's 4 openings coming up in our water system. But you can direct specifically who you want to vote for, not give away your voting rights. Okay, and likewise, I don't know if we're still a member of the Madison Peninsula Association, UPA, but
Yes.
they're having a meeting coming up in January.
Yeah, I had spoken to Don Richardson, and he had sent us the
Okay, good.
information so that we could renew.
Sounds good. That's all I had. Thank you so much. I'll see you then Tuesday night.
Thank you for bringing up the fire issue. My husband also read the paper, even though we only pay for one page. Looks like the whole community can burn whatever they want, wherever they want. So that was a problem. It was at the very end.
We paid for 2 pages, by the way.
Oh, 2 pages. It was at the very end, it said, please check with your local municipality on the rules. Okay. That issue's done. This is in reference to your message, your president message. My front easement on Camden is 48 feet by 175 feet. That's 0.193 acres. My easement on Codell is 120 feet by 23 feet, and that's 0.063 acres. That road right-of-way easement in front of my property line to the street is 0.256 acres. So in your message, you're saying that Holley by the Sea owns utility easements on all properties.
Yes,
Can you explain
the easements are in between, are between properties, not the front, that's county. So where you're talking about, from,
is the right of way?
that's the county's
Okay,
easement,
okay.
so they can come in and do whatever they want. We're talking about the easements that run along the property line,
6 foot.
is what
Is it, if you're facing, if you have a corner lot, then it's only 2. If you're not on a corner lot, you have 3 areas they own.
It's the property line, yes.
So 6 foot. So, are you planning on doing something with that 6 foot?
We were looking at that because there are certain areas that are more prone to flooding than others, where something could maybe, this is still in the beginning stages, it's not even, but it's something that we can consider doing internally within Holley by the Sea to help pipe water, like put in drains and piping that takes it to the county. And of course,
Something below ground, not ditches and culverts.
no, I wouldn't want it, I wouldn't want a ditch, it would be something, but I didn't realize that we had all that when I was speaking to Mr. Bailey from the county and then also the representative from the water system. Because we were on another person's property where their backyard was flooding. And they were like, well, this area is actually belongs to Holley by the Sea.
Now, why is that not on my survey? Why wasn't in my deeded document about where it was?
It should be on there. It should, if you got a survey, it should be on the survey. You'll see an extra dotted line in there.
6 feet.
It's not on there.
Dotted line, okay, I'll look, but I just pulled it out today, but I'll look again.
here a couple years ago, it's not on there.
Oh, he says not on there, yes.
That's your surveyor's problem then.
I will call him and tell him. Thank you.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, just to give everybody a heads up, it looks like a 17% increase in water and sewer rates next year. But in my personal opinion, I think it's justified due to their costs.
Okay, anything else? All right.
7:42.
6:42?
7:42.
7:42, this, make motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do you have a question?
Just one small thing, the insurance. When we're going out for quotes on insurance, are we listing every structure that we want insured on that request for quotation?
Yes, they have to cover all the common area properties. I mean, we've got a list. I can show you the list if someone wants to see it, plus all the coverages that we have.
Okay.
They don't cover fences, the pier, there's some things that they just don't cover.
But they cover
The structures,
the structures
and the pools, and the, yes, yes.
And the
all those
lights,
things.
all that
Yes.
kind of stuff, yeah.
Okay.
All right, meeting is adjourned.
Well done.